Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Gonzalo Herrero, your Rice 41 host. And today we have a special solo topic as we go through this series on human optimization and different various Rice 41 success and overcoming and optimization topics. And the topic for today is the cost of being exceptional and why most people quit. So, what do we mean by that? Let's just dive right in. Let's start with the lie. So everyone says they want to be exceptional. They want the body, they want the authority, they want the presence, they want the respect without asking for it. But what they actually want is the appearance of exceptionality without the consequences. Because the moment you become exceptional, you stop being relatable. And most people rather be liked than respected, even if they'll never admit it. Exceptional people don't quit because it's hard. They quit because the social cost hits before the reward shows up. And nobody warns you about that part when you're trying and doing things in order to become exceptional. You know, they'll sell you the discipline, they'll sell you the grit. We've talked about this on this podcast many, many times. They'll sell you the mindset, but they don't sell you the things that they don't talk about are the isolation, the misunderstanding, and being quietly resented by people you used to fit in with. So that's the real price tag of being exceptional. So let's dive into this topic because this is an angle that I don't think is covered enough by people who are in this space, in the human optimization, bodybuilding, fitness, health, wellness space. Part one, let's start with the basics. So let's start by setting up in this first part of this essay, if you will, what we're talking about here. So everyone wants the result and nobody wants the trade. So what do I mean by that? So everyone wants the outcome and nobody wants the exchange rate. They want, the lean body, the financial leverage, if that's where you're aiming, the calm confidence, the ability to walk into a room and not explain yourself and just have that presence, right? But what they don't want is the boring routine, the repeated sacrifice day in day out in order to achieve this goal and to become exceptional. Then that's where you choose discipline over dopamine. Then that's how you're going to do the grind. You're going to do the things that are needed in order to become exceptional rather than sit down and watch Netflix or scroll through your phone and get that cheap dopamine. That slow grind, where that in between moment where you're grinding but nothing looks impressive yet, this is what people don't want, right? And what they don't realize that's part of the price. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Exceptional results require betraying the expectations placed upon you by average people who are average because they're not doing anything exceptional, right? So, for example, you stop eating like them if it's a fitness goal. You stop relaxing like them if it's perhaps you want to like change some habits that have become negative or not positive in your life. You stop thinking like them because you're making some realizations as you meditate, as you grind through whatever process it is that you're doing, and eventually stop being available like they are. Okay? And this is when labels start to come out. This is where you'll hear people say things like, so you've changed. You're so obsessed with X, whatever it is that you're trying to become exceptional at. You're taking it too far. You need balance back in your life. So my thought on balance is that balance is what people say when your standards expose their excuses, okay? What they really mean to say is your discipline makes my comfort, me being comfortable with being average, uncomfortable. And the moment you internalize that, you understand why most people slow down right before they break away, which leads us to the second point. And this is something that it took me a while to realize. And now that I see it, I can't unsee it. And the second point is this: average people punish difference. So here's a pattern you'll notice if you're paying attention. Let me show you. This is how I noticed. When you first start improving, people cheer. Hey, they're losing weight. They're going to the gym, or they're working that second job to like get ahead financially or whatever. So that's fine when you start. People are cheering you. Yay. However, when you start pulling ahead and the changes start becoming more noticeable, the positive, what's starting to make you be exceptional, they start getting quiet. The people around you start getting quiet. And when you stay ahead, now that you're finally ahead of the game, you've improved. Now you have become exceptional at whatever it is that you're trying to do. People will start to actually push back on you a little bit. It's not that average people. So average people don't hate success. Okay, that's not what it is. But what they do hate is the contrast and what it shows. So your progress, right, by being an example, by being out there and showing that progress and the self improvement, you're forcing a comparison that they didn't consent to. All of a sudden, like your actions start making their actions reflect in a light that's not positive anymore, right? So they will, and this is, I think, honestly, for most people, this is subconscious. It's just when they see the change, it makes them uncomfortable. So they start applying pressure. Like they'll do things like social pressure. Oh, live a little. It's okay. You can come out this weekend. You can come out and have drinks with us this weekend. I know you're trying to like not drink in order to improve your life, but like, just one day won't make a difference. It's not every day. So social pressure, the whole live a little, the other one's the emotional pressure, right? Hey man, you're never around anymore. It's just, you just never hear what's the deal. So that's the emotional pressure. Then there's moral pressure, like, and I've been the target of this one a lot. Like, well, this thing that you're doing, this obsessive drive or drive to exceed or succeed or to be exceptional, this isn't healthy. It's not balanced. And it's not because you're wrong, it's because you're reminding them that this is why so many people sabotage themselves right before that momentum compounds. When you're starting a new self-improvement project or endeavor, right before the effort starts actually paying off those dividends, some people just will sabotage themselves. Like they don't quit the work. And it's not the work, that's a funny part. It's not the grind that's difficult and what makes them quit. It's they quit because of that identity friction with other people. So staying exceptional means that you have to accept a few things. Here's 3 things you have to accept. Some people are not going to come along with you as you change, as you improve. They just won't or can't. So you have to be ready for that. Some relationships will not survive, notably those that are probably unhealthy in the first place, assuming that you're grinding towards something that makes you, again, better, improved, exceptional. And some rooms that you're in will feel smaller because you're taking up more space by improving, by becoming this better version of yourself, or by adding this facet that you didn't have before. So that's not weakness though. It's just simple math. It's just how it works. So be aware of that when you embark on a self-improvement journey of some sort. So just be aware of that. So, which leads us to the third point, and that's the real cost, that you don't get to turn it off. This is something else that you have to bear in mind. And here's the something else, or a part of this process that nobody really prepares you for. It's like once your standards rise, right? I am going to hold myself to this higher standard. I am going to do X, Y, or Z that I wasn't doing in order to be better, to improve, to push ahead, to become exceptional or whatever it is that I'm trying to do. Once those standards rise, they don't come back down. Okay. You can't unsee inefficiencies, right? That you're now aware of. You can't unfeel weakness, right? Because now you've felt it, you've seen it. You can't pretend mediocrity is okay, it's fine, because again, you've seen it. You've drawn the curtain away. You've seen the Wizard of Oz. So how could you possibly be okay with going back to the way things were? You're gonna start noticing things like, people who are doing like sloppy effort at whatever it is that you're paying attention to. You're gonna start seeing things like people saying things like, coming up with excuses, but they're dressed up as philosophy. We shouldn't do this because of da 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 da. And it's really just an excuse to not do the thing. You're also gonna see or notice the difference between comfort disguised as self-care. Oh, well, in order to be balanced, in order to feel better, you can't do that. That's uncomfortable, and it's not healthy. So in order to stay okay, well, I can't be doing that thing, whatever the thing is. And this leads to some pretty brutal realizations, like you might not fit anymore. with a group of people or some individuals because of your journey of self improvement. You don't fit in, the average conversation anymore. You don't fit in with the average ambition, who folks that are aiming low. You definitely, if it's something like fitness, health related, for example, you're not going to fit in with the average lifestyle. You're not going to be the guy. If you're optimizing for your health, say, you're not going to be party every weekend guy. That lifestyle is gone. It's over for you. Staying up late, hanging out with your buddies playing video games, that might be gone, because that's not conducive to your new lifestyle, where like you go to bed early so you can get up early and do certain things because that's a better rhythm for you. It's healthier. And it's not because you think you're better, okay? Like, this is important for you to realize. It's not a superiority complex thing or anything at all. It's because you've outgrown that tolerance for stagnation, And when you outgrow that tolerance, that this is where people can start kind of panicking. Like, things like, now that you're not part of that, say, that group, using the video game example, you had your video game buddies that would stay up all night till 3, 4 in the morning playing, Warcraft or whatever. You start thinking like, crap, what if I end up alone? And so my advice to you is like, you want to reframe that. So here's the reframe. You're not alone. You're just no longer crowded by people who drain your momentum. And that silence you feel, that's space. And space is required to build something serious, something lasting, something that will definitely help you improve or become exceptional. Master this thing that you're trying to master. Change that habit that you're trying to change for self improvement. Okay. So, my fourth point, something that you have to also realize, and let's just go ahead and say it very clearly: discipline can make you very unrelatable. And what do I mean by that? So, all right. So, even more clearly, high discipline makes you very inconvenient to be around, because you're, again, using examples, generic examples. You're like going to bed early. You're going to eat on a schedule. You're going to train when other people are socializing. So instead of 5 p.m. drinks, 5 p.m. after work, you're going to the gym, say. You're going to be able to say no without having to apologize or justifying it. It's like, no, this is the right thing to do. This self-improvement thing that I'm doing, this exceptional thing that's going to help me become more exceptional. And most people just don't know how to process that, because discipline can be confrontational without even saying a word. So the behavior that you're projecting and that you're showing, it's saying something like, look, this matters more to me than being comfortable. It's more important for me to do this thing, this self-improvement thing, this thing that will make me exceptional, than being comfortable. And comfort is, for a lot of people, it's almost like a religion now. It's almost like a dominant thing, Discipline will get you labeled. Man, I've had this happen. It's like, because you're disciplined, you go to the gym 3, 4 times a week or whatever, or you eat on a schedule, or you only eat a certain way or follow a certain diet or whatever. So this is toxic. It's not healthy. You always get that one. It's extreme, like being mediocre is the opposite of extreme, I guess. It's unhealthy. That's the other one, always. Like, again, looking for the excuses, the comfort as an excuse, as philosophy, or it's obsessive. All right. So, not because it is, but because it threatens that illusion, though, that results should come without sacrifice, which is an illusion that a lot of people have. That you can get results, you can get change, you can make positive change without having to sacrifice or put in any effort. But the truth is, most people don't hate discipline. They hate what discipline reveals about their lack of follow through, and it makes them look bad. So that's why discipline can make people be very, very uncomfortable. And that discipline is required for you to become exceptional, which leads to the fifth point. And it's, most people sadly quit in what I call the invisible phase. And what is the invisible phase? This is where dreams go to die. So you've changed internally, right? Your habits are now different. Your standards are higher. Your self-talk is sharper. You're getting there. You're starting to do the things. Now you've adapted to the grind. But from the outside, though, nothing looks impressive yet. You haven't built the muscles. You haven't lost the weight. You haven't changed the habit really in a very obvious way. There's no applause. There's no recognition. There's no validation. It's just a grind that you're going through. You're just grinding in order to improve, right? And this is kind of brutal because the old version of you is gone. That dude doesn't exist anymore, or that person doesn't exist anymore. The new version isn't respected yet or recognized, right? It's not obvious. Like, oh, wow, this person lost 30 pounds. They look phenomenal, or whatever it is. Or they've learned a new skill, or they no longer drink on weekends, or whatever it is. And your ego, because you are human and you do have an ego, is starving. So this is where a lot of people quit in the process of becoming exceptional. And not because it's hard. I think it's because it's quiet. So truly exceptional people keep going without witnesses. They do it because it's the right thing to do and it's what they want to do. But average people need those feedback loops to stay disciplined. They need that reinforcement from the outside, like, oh, I see that you're doing this thing and I see that you're improving. And it's important for, again, the ego, right? The ego as we go through the journey. So if you need praise to persist, you're not building identity. What you're doing is I guess you're borrowing or renting motivation. Is kind of like what you're doing from the outside rather than building an identity and that willpower and discipline that comes from the inside. Which leads to point number 6 here, which is you will have to kill old versions of yourself. And becoming exceptional isn't additive, it's very much subtractive. I've learned this the hard way over the last 8 or 9 years. You don't just add habits, because it's not just adding habits, you're killing old versions of yourself. Think of it like software almost, right? Like, you're rewriting yourself. And every time you rewrite a new version of yourself, the old one gets deleted. Okay. The version that is negotiates with discomfort, say, that old average non-exceptional version is gone because now you're dealing with discomfort. You're learning what to do. That old version that needs permission, that's gone. You don't need anyone's permission in order to become exceptional. And you realize this. So that's gone. The whole need consensus and validation from the outside, that version, again, as you grind and become exceptional, you realize you don't need that consensus and validation from the outside. You're doing this because it's the right thing to do and you know it. And you internalize that you know that. And that version that needs reassurance, again, from the outside, that validation, again, that version is gone because you no longer need that validation from the outside. And those versions don't come quietly. They'll fight back. And they'll fight back, especially you'll hear these old versions try to come back when you're tired. That's when it's so tempting to like go back to your old habits. When you're bored of the grind, whatever it is that you're grinding towards and working, like that's when those little voices might pop in your head. Or when progress feels like it's slow or not at all, like you're stuck, even though you do know that your grind is going to produce results. It's just not right now. It's producing results slowly over time. And this is when those voices will like come and try and like self-sabotage you. This is where self-sabotage can also come up. I think, at least in my experience, and it can be this guy that's like taking a break. I'm going to pause. I'm going to hit the pause button just to like catch my breath as I'm trying to like change this thing because it's hard. But, here's the thing that I also learned is that this is the moment where exceptional people will recognize that pause for the false pause that it is, and they'll lean in. They'll be like, no, 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 no. This is what I'm going to actually grind. And the average people that listen to this voice, that says, you've done enough. That's it. We're done. We're at a pause point. Just you've earned your pause, your break. But enough is a lie that comfort tells you when growth demands escalation. It's actually what your comfort zone will tell you when you realize, like, in order to be more exceptional, I have to put in more effort. I have to do more. I have to go further. So this is the point where like, this is far enough. Let's just take a break. So don't fall for it. Okay. Don't fall for it. Like be aware of that possibility that, comfort will betray you. Well, attempt to make you betray yourself and your plans for optimization. Which leads to a seventh point, which is why most people quit right before it works. And here's the cruel irony of that. Most people quit right before that new identity solidifies, right before that discipline becomes automatic. Now you don't even have to think about it. It's just a thing you do. Right before those results compound, right before you see the final change, say if it's a weight loss thing or putting on muscle or becoming healthier or not drinking every weekend and you start feeling better. And then it also shows up unannounced. It just happens, it just happens as you'll be surprised. It'll come out of nowhere because the cost spikes before there's that payoff. And this is why most people quit right before it works because they're seeing the cost, they're not seeing the payoff yet. So if you didn't pre-agree to that cost, if you weren't okay with paying that cost, you'll eventually you could rationalize quitting, which you don't want to do, right? Because then you'll be like, well, it didn't work out the way I thought it would. So exceptional people decide really early, and they'll decide things like this. They'll think something like, this will cost me comfort, approval, and familiarity, and I'm okay with that. I accept that. That's fine. Everyone else finds an out halfway through because they panic, because they didn't accept that this new reality, this improved and optimized version of you has to pay a price in comfort, approval, and familiarity, like we talked about before in all the prior points. So hopefully, and that's my last point when it comes about the cost of being exceptional, of things to bear in mind, because if you're aware of these things, this should actually make it easier to become exceptional because now you have a mental checklist and an understanding of the processes surrounding how human beings become exceptional and try to do things that are more difficult in order to self-improve, and how they can common places where you can have a misstep. Hopefully by being aware of these potential missteps, you can avoid them. So if this episode, if this chat made you feel uncomfortable, well, that's good because that means you're standing at a threshold, right? Exceptional lives aren't built by talent. Talent is 1%. It's the grind, man. They're built by people willing to pay a price that most refuse to acknowledge, and the cost is real. The trade is brutal. The grind is hard, but the reward is worth it. So keep that in mind. If the reward is worth it, the grind is worth it. And going through all of this to become exceptional and to achieve that new goal and that better version of you is worth it. And, that's part of the whole Bryce 41 philosophy, if you will. Like, we're not doing this to gain anybody's approval. We're not doing this for external validation. You're doing it because you want to build a standard and then live up to it. So hopefully with that, I gave you some food for thought. I gave you some fuel to help you with the grind and to help you in your quest to become exceptional. I'm a big believer in continuous and relentless self-improvement in everything, spirit, mind, body, when possible. It's hard, it's difficult, but please don't let that become the obstacle in your head that stops you from becoming that exceptional person that you can be. And with that, hopefully I left you with some thoughts. Leave me the comments. Let me know. Please like, subscribe, hit all the things. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? I'm not sure, but I would love to hear from you. And if you like videos like this, again, give me a comment. Let me know. I'll keep trying to find topics and subjects that will help you consider things that perhaps you haven't considered as you go through the path of self-improvement. So with that being said, thank you very much. This is Gonzalo Herrero from Rice 41, and I'm out. Have a great day. It's most people, sadly, quit in what I call the invisible phase. And what is the invisible phase? This is where dreams go to die. So you've changed internally, right? Your habits are now different. Your standards are higher. Your self-talk is sharper. You're getting there. You're starting to do the things. Now you've adapted to the grind. But from the outside, though, nothing looks impressive yet. You haven't built the muscles. You haven't lost the weight. You haven't changed the habit really in a very obvious way. There's no applause. There's no recognition. There's no validation. It's just a grind that you're going through. You're just grinding in order to improve.